Now let's talk about the top of the hot stove, especially with Shohei Ohtani off of the market. As we all know, the Mets have been attached to Japanese sensation right-handed pitcher Yoshinobu Yamamoto before he was even posted. The timeline has changed a lot in short increments of time, so let's give the latest. A few days ago, it was reported by Will Salmon that Mets owner Steve Cohen and president of baseball operations David Stearns traveled to Japan to meet Yamamoto and his camp in person last week. In effect to this, Andy Martino reported that the Mets seem to be better positioned in Yamamoto's market after their trip to Japan. Martino continued saying the Mets' purpose of the visit was to make clear of the depth and seriousness of their interest and to give the pitcher the chance to get to know the team and its top executives, and it appears that it's been a success. The crosstown rival Yankees were identified as a favored destination for Yamamoto, but multiple sources believe that Cohen and Stearns may have been able to level the playing field last week. ESPN reporter Jeff Passan gave his take on the situation, saying that he believes that Yamamoto just wants to get paid, referencing Cohen's trip to Japan that the Mets want him badly. Other possible destinations listed besides the Mets and Yankees include the Dodgers, Red Sox, and Cubs, as Yamamoto is expected to sign very soon. Many executives and industry sources have been expecting the price to reach close to $300 million in free agency. Viewed as the clear top pitcher on the market, Yamamoto is just 25 years old and has spent the last 7 seasons in the NPB for the Ori Buffaloes, posting a dazzling 1.72 earned run average and 967.2 career innings, alongside 5 NPB All-Star selections, 3 league triple crowns, 3 league MVPs, 3 Pitcher of the Year awards, 3 Gold Gloves, 2 career no-hitters, 2 Olympic gold medals, and won a World Baseball Classic title last season with Team Japan. Without even throwing a pitch in the MLB, Yamamoto has emerged as one of the hottest commodities on the market, as Japanese baseball's most accomplished active player in such a short span.
This is the big guy, like I talk about. I mean, this is the one that is really the focal point of the Mets. He has their attention right now, and it feels like he's the big piece that once his decision is made, we'll get a much better indication of what the Mets are going to do elsewhere. And I think the fact that it looks like, with the Dodgers just paying the $700 million to Ohtani, that it looks like it's a Mets and Yankees race. I mean, sure, the Red Sox can get involved, the Cubs can get involved, definitely, but I really am curious to see how this goes, as far as that if there does actually become a true bidding war between the Mets and the Yankees. And I think the pressure is on the Mets to get this done, especially with the Yankees just acquiring Juan Soto this past week. I feel like you can't let them get Yamamoto as well. I just think it'd be a bad look for Steve Cohen, as a guy who's been, regarded as the richest owner in baseball. And if there's a player he really wants, which it seems like they've identified Yamamoto as one of those, you can't let him go elsewhere. You got to make sure that you secure it, you get it done. And I'm just curious to see what the number does come out. At the beginning of the offseason, I didn't think he'd be a guy who was going to get the $300 million deal. I was hoping it'd be something more similar to Senga, who got a good deal, but not a crazy deal. But I just think that with the kind of buzz that Yamamoto has surrounding him, it looks like he is going to turn into one of those really big-time contracts. And you can understand why. I mean, between the age, between the stuff, the results, he's got all the tools that you want as far as a big-time pitcher. And like we talked about, the Mets have the big hole in the pitching market. If this is going to be their one big spend, you got to get him. I mean, you can't pivot to just be like, oh, we didn't get Yamamoto, I guess we just have to throw a bunch of money at Blake Snell. You can't have that kind of approach. I mean, if Yamamoto's your guy, you got to get your guy, because if not, then you're just going to be settling for, your next choices and just not making the most of the money that you want to spend. So for me, I do think there's a lot of pressure on the Mets to get this done, and boy, do I hope it gets done, because if they don't, things do get pretty dicey, especially if you just let your crosstown team. It'd just be a bad look, a tough day for Met fans if that does happen. So for me, Cohen's got to make sure that they prevent that.
There's obviously a massive amount of interest from the Mets. The Mets really do want Yamamoto bad. And, we also saw Andy Martino report that he's never seen a free agent that the Mets have wanted this badly. We're kind of out of the loop a little bit of where the direction he is going, we don't really have like any expectation of like a favorite team between Mets and Yankees. I don't think that they get outbid, especially if this is a guy who they desperately, desperately want. At one point, I think that, it's Yamamoto or die right now. Like, that's how we're kind of looking at it, because how these moves have been made right now from the Mets perspective, they've done a lot of one-year deals. They've done a lot of minor league deals. We haven't gotten anything really of a main focus besides Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Like, we have not seen them attached to any relievers consistently. We have not seen them attached to any bats consistently. We've seen one story and then it goes away. We haven't seen them in any other big name besides Yamamoto. So as we talk about with like Pete Alonso, the offense goes as Pete Alonso goes. The offseason goes wherever Yamamoto goes. This is the fork in the road that where they pivot to next. I really don't want to imagine a scenario without Yamamoto signing with the Mets, to be honest. I really am not appealing to these other options on the free agent market who are not 25 like Yamamoto. I'm not throwing 6 years at Blake Snell. I wouldn't throw 6 years at Jordan Montgomery. I wouldn't throw, a prove-it deal at Lucas Giolito. Like, I'm not doing that. It's not something like off the top of my head. I'm like, okay, well, we didn't get Yamamoto. Let's go after this guy. It's a freaking need. The Mets need pitching. They need young pitching. They need longevity. And, there was another young Japanese pitcher that there was a news story about of him possibly getting posted earlier than we expected. But, Yamamoto, best pitcher in all of Japan right now. So this is someone that you really want to plug into the rotation. We all know that Senga wants him a lot. We all know the Mets want him a lot. And to be honest, at this point, it all depends where he wants to go. The Mets aren't going to get outbid. I doubt that they get outbid at all. They will offer the most money than any team out there. I can almost guarantee that. It all depends if he wants to play for the Mets. Like, that's literally all that you are banking on. And hopefully that is the case.
Like you said, longevity, the age. That's the really big thing here. Compared to the Verlander, the Scherzer in recent years, the Mets need to get a guy who, it's like, okay, at least you have Yamamoto in your rotation going forward. Like we talk about, the most important thing to building a championship team is young starting pitching. And like we've talked about, the Mets don't have it on the way. So how else are you going to get it? This is how you get it. And I think if they could really just secure the Yamamoto-Senga 1-2 combo, you're off to a really good start. You have something to actually build upon and be excited about. So again, to me, it really needs to get done. This is a big one. Especially, I think, for Cohen, just to get this out the way. This is a big one. They've got to get it done, because if you don't get him and you're not getting these big-time power outfielders, DH guys that we want, it's going to be a tough sell. It really is. I think for Met fans, you feel very skeptical. You know what? You're like, okay, we got Stearns, but again, do we trust all these one-year prove-it guys? Are all these guys going to turn out and have bounce backs? Like, you're relying on a lot. You want to have at least some guys who are, coming off of something good that they could build upon. You don't want to have all reclamation projects. That's really tough to build a winner like that. You can only fix so much when it comes to players. So I really would like to see the Mets secure a nice young pitcher here.
Yeah, we haven't really seen them bring in anybody old, which has been good. Like, that's really just been the oldest I think is Wendell at 33. Like, it's all been relatively young, so that's an improvement. But just calling about their young pitching again, like the Mets, we already knew that what was going to lead them to a World Series, back in 2015 was going to be the pitching, and that was it. They were always talking about the pitching and the young pitching of Harvey and DeGrom and Wheeler and Syndergaard and even Matz at some times. And, there were some other guys that came up young for the bullpen. Dylan G. But the problem is that none of them could stay healthy. And I'm going to revert back to what we said about Severino. If they were to bring in a 6-man rotation with the stipulations of these Japanese pitchers pitching every 6 days or once a week, I think that is a perfect way to bring in the young pitching. Let's just say if you're plugging in your homegrown pieces around Yamamoto and Senga, There are some guys in the minor leagues that maybe they do get the job in the rotation. If you do a 6-man rotation, you can keep them healthy. You can keep them throwing as hard for a lot longer. I want a 6-man rotation only just because of the health concerns that the Mets have had for so goddamn long for pitching. We've seen Stearns do it before, and this just fits so perfectly into so many combinations, so many aspects, where you bring Yoshi Yamamoto, you can bring in a 6-man rotation and you can keep everybody healthy. You can get tons of innings out of these arms. You don't tax your bullpen. There's just so many things that the Mets can do right now with Yamamoto coming in. It opens up the possibilities of a lot of different things, and I'm really hoping that the Mets go after it and get it, and he signs with the Mets. And to be honest, I mean, I would be willing to go over $300 million if that guarantees the possibility of getting Yoshi Yamamoto, because long term, there's a good chance that the investment is going to pay off, most likely.